me share my screen. It's just vanished. We just practiced it and it was absolutely fine, wasn't it, Rosie? Here we go. Let me just bear with me. I've opened and closed it again. Let me see. It's saying it's not there, so bear with me. As always, it's the tech that gets you every single time. Let's try once more. There we go. It's come up now. Right. So anyway, thank you ever so much for having us here today. Really, really pleased to be part of the session. Thank you for giving us the time. And I will rush through because I'm aware of, we haven't got a huge amount of time. So I will rush through the session and you can take questions at the end. We can share the slides afterwards. And I'm really pleased that we've got Finlay here as well from Aberdeen Standard Investments, which is one of our firms. And Finlay went to Shoebury High. So he is a local boy as well. And I also live locally and I lived in Shoebury for quite some time. And I know lots of you on the call too. So let me just see if I can get the slides up.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, sorry, I thought you were sharing already.
Am I?
No, sorry, I was just about to say we can't see the slides, but didn't realise you hadn't popped them on.
Yeah, for some reason it's now not allowing me to share. Let me try again. We just practiced it, didn't we, as well, Rosie? We just had a go. It's
always the way it is.
I know. Bear with me 1 second. Let me just see. So let's have a look. Let's try once more. It's not coming up at the moment. Oh, actually,
we can.
Can you see the PowerPoint?
I can see a J and a B for Jenny Barber. Laura, what can you see?
I can't see anything yet. Nothing's on my screen.
Do you know what I spend my life delivering virtual sessions now, literally, and I think this is the first time that we've had not being able to share. So let me just try. Well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to crack on because of time, to be honest, and then I can just, oh, hang on, we might be all right now.
Sometimes I click on shared desktop and then just go out and click onto the PowerPoint. Sometimes I can't find my PowerPoint in the other list. I don't know if that would help.
Can you see it now? I think it's just come up. Are we there?
Perfect.
There we go. We got there. Perfect. Excellent. Well, listen, very great to be here today. I'm just going to cover off the labour market of investment management. Look, the world has shifted, as we all know, over the last 6 to 9 months, and no sector has, not been affected by it. But there's been some sectors that have had much more of a direct hit and others which haven't. And we know from a lot of the work that we do in schools and colleges and universities that a lot feel, oh, there are no jobs. Well, that's not so much the case in investment management. Now, Rosie's given me a brief and I'm hoping to weave as much of that in as I can this morning. But just to start off with, I think when I talk about students about careers in investment management, most of the time they say one of two things to me. They say, it's not for me because I'm no good at maths. Or they say, yes, I want to be an investment banker, which is a completely different sector and a different job. And they're just two of the misconceptions that most young people have about the sector. And there's lots of great career opportunities for young people with a whole range of skill set, because it's not just about finance. So it might be about working with people in finance, in human resources and sales. It might be creative jobs in marketing and digital media, or it might be working directly with the funds and investment operations as well. But essentially, as an industry, we need people with a wide range of skill sets. And actually, lots of young people decide it's not for them on the basis of them thinking it's just about finance. I'm going to come on to Investment 2020 at the end, but essentially we support young people in exploring and navigating their way into their first job in the sector. And we have over 50 investment management firms that support the programme. Now, I know this is about the Southend labour market, but actually, as we all know, as being Southend residents, that actually the labour market for people who live here is not just within those local authority boundaries. It's actually wider because we have such good transport infrastructure. I lived in Shoebury for years, and from Shoebury I commuted into Canary Wharf and the city, Islington, Tower Hamlets and so on. And actually I was trying to look for some stats and lead up to this session to see how many Southend residents commute. And I could only find really old stats, but back in 2011 the census was saying that Southend was the 20th highest borough of commuters into London out of the whole of the UK, and they had about 12,500 commuters. And then I found some more recent stats that said about a fifth of the population of Southend commute into London each day. So whilst opportunities for young people in our sector may not be on the doorstep in Southend, they can get to those opportunities really easily within, you know, a 45-minute train journey most of the time. And actually, it does open up their career progression opportunities as well that bit more. I used to teach in Tower Hamlets, and if I'm honest with you, and as most of you know, I used to work at Southend College as well. And actually what I used to find is when I was teaching Tower Hamlets and Islington, actually I found that so many of my students wouldn't be up for commuting across London or to different boroughs, but my students in Southend absolutely would be. It was a real cultural piece. But before we move on to look at investment management specifically, I just thought it'd be helpful to outline financial services as a whole. So you generally have 4 parts of financial services. So you've got investment management, which is what we are. Then you've got the insurance sector and the reinsurance sector. Then you've got banking, split into retail and investments. And then you've got financial planning as well. So we are 1/4 of this bigger industry, and the City UK, which is a brilliant organisation that has great data on financial services, said that 2.3 million people in their research this year work in financial services, and 1.1 million work across these 4 here. So it is a really big industry in itself, and there's no one way of describing each of these sectors as a whole, if I'm honest with you. We all need slightly different skills, you know, some of them are very geographical based, i.e. investment management, we're very much in the city, bit of West London and very much in Scotland, so in Edinburgh and Glasgow and Aberdeen and Stirling. But you've got banking, which is much more high street and retail, which you'll find in every town for the time being anyway. And insurance obviously can be very small brokers, but also those big global brokers too. So whilst London and Scotland are big hubs of financial services, for investment management particularly so, some other aspects of financial services you can find in much more local areas, as we will do locally in Southend as well. So let's just quickly go over what investment management is, because we're not a high street industry, and actually lots of people don't really know what we do. But very simply, investment management is all about long-term investment and enabling individuals to secure their financial future. So the UK is the second largest investment management centre in the world after the US, which is really saying something when you think about the US and its domestic population, because we are about pensions. And actually, we manage £8.5 trillion worth of people's money to enable them to achieve those long-term financial goals. So why some people might have long-term financial say of saving for a house deposit, one of the biggest pieces of our work are pensions and pensions trusts. And over 75% of the UK households have a pension. So whilst we are not a high street in terms of our branches in our offices, we are very much an industry which represents individuals right across the UK. So investment managers look after people's money and aim to grow its value by investing it in carefully selected funds, and then hopefully provide a return on that investment over the long term. But along with providing clients with financial returns, the sector is also about trying to move forward on global issues as well through the investment choices that the sector is making. So I just want to quickly go through these, because quite often, you know, this is the point when we talk to young people at this stage of a session, they get really interested because suddenly it feels tangible and suddenly it feels relatable to them. So just look at these 6 pictures, okay? Let's take first of all the electric car and the plastic bottle in the ocean. These represent the environment, okay? So investment managers can choose to invest in companies that have made a commitment to changing the way they operate, changing the way they manufacture, and saying, actually, we are making these changes to the way in which we function to move forward on the global climate issue. So a really good example is investment managers might choose to invest in firms that have made a commitment to move away from using diesel and petrol delivery trucks to electric delivery trucks. They may choose to only invest in firms that have moved away from producing single-use plastic. So through the choices investment managers make, they can provide the capital to firms to produce products and services that are helping our fight on the environmental front, but also decide not to invest in those firms that haven't made those commitments. Then let's look at the middle pictures here, COVID-19 and the homelessness picture. These represent society and community, social aspects. So investment management firms provide capital to healthcare organisations to fund research and medicine development, drug development to fight diseases, so cancer, COVID and so on. In order for companies to be able to fund that type of research, it needs capital and investment. So by the choices that our sector makes, it can really help drive forward in terms of those big health issues globally across the world. And then in terms of society and people and communities, so one of our investment firms, this is a really good solid example, they have and are really well known for their social housing fund. It's Triple Point. I'll come on and show you them in a minute. So Triple Point have a really successful and really well known social housing fund, and they invest in housing, social housing for vulnerable adults. And they have made a significant difference to enabling vulnerable adults who were high risk of homelessness in being able to have a stable home through the investments that they make. And then let's look at the last two pictures here. So you see the male-female figure on the scales, and you've got the boardroom. This is the governance issue. So our firms, the investment managers, when they invest in firms, they are looking at how does that company operate? And they are making choices based on the governance of that firm as to whether or not it is a good investment choice. So have they made a commitment to equaling out the pay between men and women? Have they made a commitment to address the gender pay gap? Have they made a commitment to ensure that there's a drive to recruit more women on their boards? Because we all know the risk is much lower if you have women on the boards in terms of managing issues, and also they tend to be highly successful too. So when an investment manager is looking at who they invest in, they are looking at the governance aspect of those firms as well, which is hoping to drive forward lots of equality issues within society too. It may also be things like, how are they paying executive bonuses? Have they made the right commitments and moves towards health and safety for their staff? The governance issue is absolutely huge. And they can do this because they are a sizable shareholder. When an investment manager invests in a firm, they become a sizable shareholder. So these are just some of the ways which investment managers can really make a difference to global issues at the same time as providing financial returns for their clients. So I just thought it'd be helpful to very briefly look at the firms in our sector. Now, these are just the ones that are part of Investment 2020. We have over 55 firms that are part of us. Now, you'll recognise some of these big firms, Aviva, you'll recognise the umbrella for Legal and General, you'll recognise JP Morgan, I should imagine, Morgan Stanley. Now, these are what we call group firms. They don't just do investment management. They also do something else within that group. So they're insurers or they're banks. So JP Morgan Chase is the bank side. We work specifically with the investment management side of the business. So Aviva Investors, Legal and General Investment Management. And they have this because as insurance, they obviously have the insurance premiums that they then invest in the markets. So, and it goes the same for the banks as well. But then you've got smaller firms who are still sizable. So you've got people like Jupiter Asset Management, for example, or Reddington, who investment management is the main thing that they do. It's the main business. And then you've got more niche, not necessarily small, but more niche firms. So, for example, 9fin at the top here, they're actually a fintech firm. They're financial services technology, which is a massive growth area. So when advising students, that a digital revolution, particularly in financial services, is where lots of jobs will be. And 9fin actually are very small. There's only about 20 of them, and they take quite a few Investment 2020 trainees each year. So I just thought as a very brief overview, that's quite good as to get to understand who the firms are that make up the investment management sector. So when it comes to jobs, and you're talking to your students about what the types of jobs are that they could do, we generally put them out into three areas. You've got those that are related to funds, you've got those that are company and corporate roles, and those that are systems and data focused. So the funds is all about jobs that are related to the fund management itself. Now, it may be the analysts who are looking at what are good decisions around where to invest, new companies that might be coming onto the market. Then you've got the fund managers who are making which are the final decisions where they're going to invest their clients' money. Then you've got the investment operation professionals who are critical to this whole piece. So they may be the performance experts that are looking at the performance of funds and reporting back to clients. It may be the trade operations professionals who are making sure that the trades that are happening within the markets actually get processed accurately and quickly. Within those company roles, you can have everything from sales and marketing, digital marketing, so lots of creative roles, lots of client-facing roles. You've got your compliance and legal roles, so those roles which are looking at the financial services regulation and company law. And then you've got lots of HR and training roles. So we're very much a people business. And then systems and data, it goes without saying that systems and data are growing areas of jobs. And actually the whole piece around COVID has driven this forward even more, because obviously remote working, we are a global industry. We need excellent, we're based off very sophisticated technology systems actually. So we need excellent IT people to manage global trading systems, to manage messaging teams, and data, as we all know, is the king. So the decisions that are made about investments are made off the basis of sophisticated data that is coming through. And it's not just about the fund data, it's data how it's used across an organisation too. Now, in terms of skills, there's no one set of skills because these jobs are so varied. I mean, they really are. There's a job for everyone in our sector because the jobs are just incredibly wide. But what I would say is that what they look for school leavers is not necessarily particular grades or experience. And that's certainly what Investment 2020 is about. We're about potential, not what you've achieved. But we do look for a can-do attitude. We look for someone who's going to be committed, who can work hard, someone who's really interested in the sector. I just thought I'd say something here about neurodiversity as well. Neurodiversity is really important in our industry. And what's really interesting is that when I do lots of talks to universities, I'm always keen to get students from subject backgrounds which are not just economics, finance and business. We need people from a wide range of subjects, because that means people are coming into our industry with different specialist knowledge and also different ways of thinking. They approach problems differently. They work in teams differently. They can pull out key information differently, and that enriches the sector. And there is a big push around neurodiversity. I also just wanted to talk about recognising strengths, and I've mentioned that Investment 2020 is all about potential in young people, not what they have achieved. And we do a lot of work to support young people with disabilities, and a programme that I'm running at the moment is running with a specialist autistic school in London. We're running a 12-week work placement programme where we see them once a week, and we're obviously doing it virtually, at the moment. But there is, again, a big drive to recognise the strengths that a broad range of people coming into the sector can contribute, and it's about what people can do and where their strengths are. Now, when I send this deck round to you via Rosie, this is actually a film which I think is for you to show students. It's 4 minutes and it's all about be surprised by who works here. And actually what it's doing is addressing the misconceptions of who works in the industry. And I really recommend you watching it and then showing your students. It's a great way for them to start thinking, actually, perhaps this could be for me. Now, in terms of what's happening in the sector, obviously COVID's been felt by every sector, although to a slightly lesser extent in our industry, although who knows what the next 12 to 24 months is going to bring. We know those industries which have high footfall, so hospitality, retail, we know that they have been affected massively. We are keeping a close eye on it. Investment management, like every sector, is keeping a close eye on COVID to see how it's managed, to look at the vaccine as people are making decisions. But we've actually not had a bad sort of 9 months. So since lockdown began back in March through to October, we've had over 70 trainee and apprenticeship, that's 70, vacancies come out for school leavers, people leaving year 13, across 24 employers. So our employers are still recruiting. The difference has been it's been a much more fluid recruitment process. So Investment 2020 positions come out throughout the year. But actually, what we found this year is that there's been much more of a fluid approach to that, as opposed to having bulk times where the positions come out. So quite often, a lot of them come out February to sort of June, July, ready for starting in the September. But this year it's been much more fluid, which for young people in many ways has been a really good thing, because actually it means you're not finishing university or sixth form thinking I haven't got a job, but actually within a month you could actually have a job, because these positions are coming out ongoingly. Remote working has obviously been standard for everyone now, and very much within our sector. So the majority of firms have everyone working from home, with key staff going in, so the traders and so on going in. And actually what we've found, our young people who have started, a bit like Finlay, you'll hear in a minute, have started in a remote way and perhaps never been into their office, but it's worked really well. We've put a lot of work into virtual onboarding. The firms have made sure young people have been set up and able to work from home, feel supported, and actually having a lot more communication to some extent too. So emotional well-being, mental health and supporting young people and employees has obviously been top of the agenda. And I think it's fair to say, and I'm sure Finlay will say the same, all of our firms have really made sure that is where their priority goes. And we've seen some fantastic initiatives come about to support people's mental health and emotional well-being over COVID. What we've also seen is there's been a strong desire by firms to support young people in communities through the outreach work that we do. And I can talk a little bit about that later at the question times. So in terms of the Investment 2020 programme, very quick run through. Essentially, it's a 12-month job. Okay, the young person comes in and they do a job at one of our firms. They apply and are recruited to that job. They get paid between £20,000 and £25,000 for the year in London. They get on-the-job training to do that job well. So by the end of the 12 months, they should be great at doing that job. And some of our employers offer an industry-relevant qualification as well, like the CISI Foundation, for example. Then they get access to the Investment 2020 broader range of support as well, and networking events. And 75% of our trainees then secure a permanent role at the end. All of our firms take young people on the basis that they want to keep them at the end of the 12 months. Some young people come from school and college at year 13 and decide actually they're going to go off to university at the end of the 12 months. Some use it as a springboard for their next job. So that 25%, you may be wondering about what happens to them. Actually, it generally turns out that it's a very positive destination. It's just not staying within their firm in that role. And they then might roll on to market rate salary at the end of their trainee year. So I'm going to stop now and just hand over to Finlay, because Finlay's from Shoeburyness High. He's been in his job at Aberdeen Standard Investments for 6 weeks, and just to talk to you a little bit about his experience. So over to you, Finlay.
Hi, I'm Finlay, and as you probably just heard, I'm from Shoeburyness High School. And so I currently work for Standard Life Aberdeen in the marketing department, but more in a closer team. I work in sales execution, but at the moment I'm just picking up odd jobs here and there for all of whatever my manager needs me to do and whatever any of the team needs me to do. So I originally heard about the Investment 2020 and the trainee role in general through a friend, and as the more I looked into it, I decided to join the program because I thought it was a much better fit for me rather than school, and also I could see that there was a huge amount of opportunity and learning to be done. So one thing I didn't see about my job at first, which I now realise, and it's probably my favourite thing about my role, is that the opportunities that have arisen through it. So the amount of meetings that have been set up by my team to talk to all different people around the business, I think is such a great opportunity, because I now have such a wider understanding of the greater areas of the business and the more wide areas of the business than just the team that I'm working in, which I think is great, because my manager has been supporting me, and other people who were on the scheme in previous years have messaged me and supported me and asked to meet with me instead of me having to seek them out. I've actually had a lot of people come to me first, which I just think is really the best thing for a new trainee. And obviously during COVID times, it's been a different joining experience than most people would have, I suppose, in other years. But I do think that the onboarding experience that Aberdeen Standard Investments did anyway was really great, and I felt supported and not alone throughout any of my journey from start to now. And I actually, in a way, think that it's connected the trainees more than usual, because usually they have 7 trainees in London and 13 in Scotland, and most of the time the London trainees don't actually talk to the Scotland trainees, but now we all we all seem to talk to each other, and we're all just as close as each other because we're all the same distance away in a way. So I do think that that's really, really great. But also, you know, COVID it's been, they've done the best they can. That's what I think. It's not a great situation to be in for anyone, but they've. Yeah, thank you for listening.
Great, thanks, Finlay. So I'm just very aware of time. I mean, that's really helpful. And Finlay, I'm sure if so we can deliver live virtual careers workshops to your students. We're doing them the whole time. I've got about 6 booked today. So Finlay, I'm sure if there's any Southend schools that might be keen to have a workshop for us to deliver, you'd come along and share your experience with the students virtually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll be happy to do that.
Fantastic. So that means your students can obviously hear from a young person who's living locally, who's doing the commute, you know, can talk about that's like when we can get into the offices, but also share about his experience of working remotely as well, which, you know, it's going to be here for a while. And any of those year 13s that are looking to go out to work, he can talk through his experience of going through that recruitment process in a remote way and starting work in a remote way as well. Really, the only things left for me to say is we can come out, we can do careers workshops, so virtual live ones. I've got a pre-recorded careers workshop film that's 15 minutes. You can play in an assembly. We run half-term virtual work experience programs. I'm just recruiting for February, but I need to look at numbers. I might already be full. It's just on the boundaries now at the moment in terms of numbers, but they are live delivered every day virtual work experience programs. I've got about 50 places, but I think I might be at that top level. I just need to look. They're for year 13s. And then in July, I have everything crossed, hoping and praying that we can do in-person stuff in July. We'll have to wait to see. We'll actually run a work experience program for the week, and we have everyone in. I have about 50 to 60 young people scattered across different firms for some of the week and with me for some of the week. We don't know if we can yet do that, but I might do a virtual version. We'll have to wait and see on that one. And that's about it.
Thank you very much, Jenny. That's fantastic. I'm sure all of the attendees today have your email address from the invite, but if they haven't and you don't mind, if you wouldn't mind popping that into the chat, that would be fab. And yeah, I'll also pop it into the email. But for anybody who is able to stay on, and if you've got any questions to Jenny about Investment 2020 in general or about investment management sector, please do just pop your hand up or ask away. So we've got Nikki Weller.
Hi, Nikki.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi,
I just wanted to ask you about the work experience, because obviously that's the biggest, well, a major part of my job, which isn't obviously happening at the moment, and we're looking for any kind of virtual, you know, opportunities at the moment. Yeah. Do you, or basically, do you have a link or something that I can send out to the year 13s for the work experience?
So I do. I said I'm just looking at numbers at the moment. So because as you can imagine, it gets quite popular. So what I will do is I'll put your school on the list to go to once I know what the numbers looks like.
That'd be brilliant. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. It's only for year 13s, and it's specifically for young people who do want to go to work at the end of sixth form, because we know they are entering a labour market which is a bit trickier, and so any help that we can give them in terms of making that transition is obviously important.
No, that'd be brilliant. Thank you. I mean, I'm getting more and more, you know, people querying me, especially the year 13s, about alternatives to university. It'd be really good if I can give them sort of a helping hand with that. That'd be great.
Sure, I'll put your school on the list of schools to go to once I've looked at the numbers in the next few days.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thanks.